I was 25 when I had my first child. By 30, I had 3 under 5, and my career as a rising architect was over. I don't regret it. I loved being home with them, watching them grow, being there for every moment. But somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing me. I became just mom. The one who makes dinner, does laundry, exists in the background of their busy lives. When my youngest graduated college, they sat me down and told me they were worried about me. I had no skills, they said. No career, no future. They offered to help me find a hobby. They thought I was useless. They had no idea what I was about to become. Hello, welcome to Hurt Stories. Let me tell you about the woman I used to be. Before I was a mother, I was an architect. Not just any architect, a good one. I graduated at the top of my class, won awards for my designs, and was hired by one of the most prestigious firms in the city. I was 23 years old, full of dreams, ready to change the world one building at a time. I loved it. I loved the smell of blueprints, the feel of a pencil in my hand, the moment when a design finally clicked into place. I loved walking through buildings I'd helped create, running my hands along the walls, knowing that something I'd imagined had become real. Then I met Thomas. He was a contractor working on one of my projects. We fell in love quickly, deeply, the way you do when you're young and the world seems full of possibility. We got married. We bought a house. We planned a future, and then the children came. First Emily, then James, then little Sarah. 3 Bobbies in 5 years. I was 25 when Emily was born, 30 when Sarah arrived. By the time Sarah was walking, my career as an architect was over. I don't regret it. I need to say that because people always assume I must. They assume I gave up my dreams and spent decades resenting my children for it. That's not true. I loved being home with them. I loved watching them take their first steps, say their first words, become the people they were meant to be. I was there for every moment, every scraped knee, every school play, every bedtime story. That was my choice, and I don't regret it. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being an architect. I stopped being Winnie. I became just mom. The erasure was gradual, almost imperceptible. It happened so slowly that I didn't notice it until it was complete. At first, it was small things. People at parties would ask what I did, and I'd say, "I'm a stay-at-home mom." They'd nod, smile, and turn to someone more interesting. My opinion on things, politics, art, world events stopped mattering. I was just a mom. What could I possibly know? Thomas, God rest his soul, never made me feel small. He valued me, appreciated me, saw me. But he worked long hours, traveled often, and when he was home, he was tired. We didn't talk the way we used to. We didn't dream together anymore. Our conversations were about schedules and bills and the children's needs. When Thomas died, suddenly, of a heart attack when the kids were teenagers, I lost more than my husband. I lost the only person who still saw me as Winnie, not just mom. After he was gone, it was just me and the children. And they were teenagers, self-absorbed, busy, growing into their own lives. They loved me, I know that, but they didn't see me. I was the person who made dinner, did laundry, drove them places. I was a function, not a person. I told myself it was temporary. They'd grow up, leave home, and then I'd have time for myself. I'd go back to architecture or find something new. There was plenty of time. I was wrong. The conversation happened 3 years ago. Sarah, my youngest, had just graduated from college. Emily was working as a lawyer. James was in medical school. They were all home for the summer briefly before scattering to their busy lives. We were sitting around the dinner table, my table, the one where I'd served thousands of meals over the years. Emily was talking about a big case she was working on. James was describing a complicated surgery he'd observed. Sarah was discussing her plans for graduate school. I listened, as always. I asked questions, as always. I was proud of them, so proud. They were everything I'd hoped they'd become. Then Emily turned to me. She had that expression, the one that said she was about to say something important. She said, "Mom, we need to talk to you about your future." I blinked. My future? I was 47 years old. I had a future. James jumped in. He said, "We've been talking and we're worried about you. You've spent your whole life taking care of us. Now we're gone." "What are you going to do with yourself?" Sarah added gently. You don't have any skills, Mom, not really. I mean, you're a great mom, but in the real world. You don't have a career, you don't have experience. We're worried you'll be lonely, bored. We want to help you find something to do. I sat there, frozen, no skills, no career, no future. They weren't being cruel. They genuinely thought they were helping. They saw me as a relic, a dinosaur, someone who'd outlived her usefulness. I wanted to scream. I wanted to remind them of the years I'd given them, the sacrifices I'd made, the person I'd been before they were born, but I couldn't speak. The words wouldn't come. I just nodded and said, "That's very thoughtful, I'll think about it." They smiled, relieved, and went back to talking about their exciting lives. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying their words over and over. No skills, no career, no future. They'd summed up my entire life in 3 cruel phrases. I thought about the woman I used to be, the architect, the award winner, the one with dreams and ambitions and a whole world ahead of her. Where had she gone? Had she disappeared completely, or was she still in there somewhere waiting to be found? I got up. I went to the attic and pulled down boxes I hadn't opened in years. Inside were my old portfolios, my blueprints, my awards. I spread them out on the floor and looked at them for the first time in decades. They were good, really good. The lines were clean, the designs innovative, the concepts ahead of their time. I remembered the thrill of creating them, the satisfaction of solving a difficult problem, the joy of seeing something I'd imagined become real. I sat on the floor, surrounded by my past, and I cried. Not for what I'd lost, but for what I'd forgotten. I'd forgotten who I was. I'd let myself become invisible, not just to my children, but to myself. And then I got angry. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be useless. I wasn't going to fade away. I was going to become something not for them, but for me. I was going to prove that the woman they'd dismissed was capable of more than they could imagine. I started researching. The architecture world had changed dramatically in 20 years. New software, new techniques, new trends. I had a lot to learn. I enrolled in online courses. I learned the latest design software, studied contemporary architecture, familiarized myself with the current market. I worked late into the night, fueled by coffee and determination and the memory of their words. I started small. I designed a tiny house for a friend, just a weekend project, something to get my feet wet. She loved it. She showed it to her friends. They loved it too. Word spread. I got more commissions, small ones at first, then bigger ones. I designed a renovation for a local cafe. I designed a small office building. I designed a house, a real house from scratch for a family who trusted my vision. Each project was a victory. Each completed design was proof that I was still here, still capable, still valuable. It took 2 years to rebuild my career. 2 years of work, of learning, of proving myself all over again. But I did it. I started my own firm, small, just me and a virtual assistant. I called it Winnie Wren Designs, after the famous architect Christopher Wren. A nod to my past, a claim on my future. I won a competition to design a community center in the city. It was a modest project, but it put me on the map. The design was praised for its innovation, its warmth, its humanity. I gave interviews. I was featured in local publications. I was invited to speak at conferences. The awards started coming. First local, then regional, then national. I was named Emerging Architect of the Year at 49, a joke since I'd been emerging for 25 years. But I didn't care. I was being seen. I was being recognized. I was being valued. My children had no idea. They were so busy with their own lives that they hadn't noticed what I was doing. They called occasionally, asked how I was, and I said, fine. I didn't tell them about my work. I wanted to wait. I wanted to show them. The moment came when I was invited to receive a major award, the city's Design Excellence Prize, one of the most prestigious in the region. The ceremony was black tie, hundreds of people, media coverage. It was a big deal. I decided to invite my children, all 3 of them. I sent them each an invitation with a note. I'd love for you to be there. It's important to me. They called, confused. What was this about? What was I being honored for? I told them they'd have to wait and see. Emily said she was busy with a case. James said he had exams. Sarah said she had plans. They made excuses, all of them. They didn't want to come. I said, I understand, but I'd really like you there. It would mean a lot to me. There was a pause. Then Emily said, Okay, Mom, we'll be there. The night of the ceremony was beautiful. I wore a deep blue gown, Thomas's favorite color, and walked into the ballroom on shaking legs. The room was filled with people I'd come to know over the past 2 years, fellow architects, clients, journalists, friends. My children were there, sitting at a table near the back. They looked uncomfortable, out of place, surrounded by people who actually knew what was happening. I waved at them and took my seat at the front. The speeches began. People talked about the importance of design, the future of the city, the nominees for the award. I listened, my heart pounding, trying to stay calm. Then they called my name. I walked to the stage in a daze. The presenter read the citation about my innovative designs, my commitment to community, my remarkable journey. And then she said something that made me stop breathing. She said, Winnie Wren's story is especially inspiring because she didn't start her firm until she was 47. Before that, she spent 2 decades as a stay-at-home mother, raising 3 children who have gone on to become a lawyer, a doctor, and a graduate student. Tonight, we honor not just her designs, but her resilience, her determination, and her proof that it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. The audience applauded. I accepted the award, blinking back tears. And then I looked at my children, their faces. I'll never forget their faces. Emily was crying. James was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Sarah had her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. They hadn't known. They hadn't had any idea. After the ceremony, they found me. They pushed through the crowd, their faces a mixture of emotions, shock, pride, shame, love. Emily spoke first. She said, Mom, we had no idea. You did all this in 2 years. I nodded. James said, Why didn't you tell us? I looked at him. I said, You never asked. You were so busy with your own lives, your own successes, you didn't see me. You thought I was useless. I wanted to show you that I wasn't. Sarah started crying. She said, Mom, I'm so sorry, that conversation at dinner. We were so cruel. We didn't mean to be, but we were. We didn't see you. We're so sorry. I held her. I held all of them. We stood there in the middle of that crowded room and we cried together. Emily said, We're so proud of you, Mom, so proud. I said, That means more than any award. Things changed after that night. My children started calling more often, not to ask for anything, just to talk. They started visiting, inviting me to their homes, including me in their lives. They asked about my work, my projects, my dreams. They saw me. Emily came to my office and asked me to design her new house. She said she wanted something that reflected who she was, and she trusted me to create it. I cried when she asked. James invited me to speak at his medical school about work-life balance and pursuing your dreams at any age. The students gave me a standing ovation. Sarah asked if she could intern with me during her summer break. She said she wanted to learn from me. From me. I'm not bitter about the years they didn't see me. I can't be. They were young, self-absorbed, building their own lives. That's what children do. That's what I raised them to do. But I'm grateful that they see me now, that they're proud of me now. That we have a relationship now that's based on mutual respect, not just obligation. I've thought a lot about what happened. About the years of invisibility, the conversation that broke me, the journey that rebuilt me. Here's what I've learned. Sacrifice is not weakness. Giving up your dreams for your children is not failure. It's love. It's the deepest, most profound love there is. But love doesn't mean disappearing. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. Love means giving while staying whole, so that when your children no longer need you, you're still there. I lost myself for a while. I won't pretend I didn't. I became so focused on being Mom that I forgot I was also Winnie. And my children, in their self-absorbed way, reflected that back to me. They saw me as Mom because that's all I showed them. But I found myself again, not through them, through me. Through the work, the determination, the refusal to be dismissed. I proved to myself that I was still capable, still valuable, still here. My children didn't mean to hurt me. They were just young, focused on their own lives, blind to what was right in front of them. And when they finally saw me, really saw me, they were proud. That matters. That matters more than I can say. So here I am, 51 years old, more successful than I ever imagined, more at peace than I ever hoped. My firm is thriving. I have projects all over the country, a team of talented young architects, a reputation that matters. I've won awards I never dreamed of, spoken at conferences around the world, mentored dozens of young designers starting their own journeys. But that's not the success that matters most. The success that matters is sitting across from me at Sunday dinner. Emily, with her sharp mind and kind heart. James, with his steady hands and gentle soul. Sarah, with her curiosity and creativity. They're here with me, laughing and talking and being family. They thought I was useless. They thought I had no skills, no future, nothing to offer. They were wrong. I sacrificed my career for my children. I gave up my dreams so they could have theirs. And then, when they didn't need me anymore, I built new dreams. I became someone they never expected. I'm more successful than them now. Not in the ways that matter, we're all successful in our own ways. But in the ways the world measures, yes, I've surpassed them. The woman they thought was useless is now the one they're proud of. But here's the truth. I don't need to be more successful than them. I just need to be successful for me. I need to know that I'm still here, still capable, still valuable. And I am. If you're listening to this and you've given up something for your children, a career, a dream, a part of yourself, hear me. You are not useless. You are not finished. You are not invisible. Your children may not see you now. They may be too young, too busy, too self-absorbed. But that doesn't mean you're not there. That doesn't mean you don't matter. And when they're grown, when they don't need you anymore, you can become whoever you want to be. It's never too late. Never. I sacrificed my career for my children. They thought I was useless, so I became more successful than them. And you know what? It feels pretty good. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.